town cloaked in black sky. They promised us a setting more sci-fi, trying to see beyond disease and blight, hoping everything in love somehow survives.
You're listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On today's episode, we're discussing Fire Season, track 11 on 2025's At Peace LP on Epitaph Records.
Yes, Steve, it is Fire Season once again, and I thought that it would just be useful for you and I to get together just to kind of talk about what's going on outside our windows at this very second, and it has become an annual thing. What's going on up there in Hamilton?
It is very smoky, and we can't go outside.
So when did it get really bad? Did it get really bad yesterday?
Yesterday in the morning, Hamilton was fine, but I had to work a couple hours north of Toronto yesterday, and driving up there, it was horrific. The smoke, just like I don't know, for all three people listen to this right now. If you're ever driven on the 407 in Toronto and you're driving by the IKEA in Vaughan, there's like a bunch of like high-rise apartment, like condos right behind the IKEA. You could not even see the high-rises. You could just see the IKEA, which is directly next to the highway. The high-rises that are like maybe, I want to say, 1,000 feet from the highway, couldn't see them.
Yeah. Hey, what was it like growing up? When did you first remember seeing smoke in the summertime in Canada? Because I grew up in Missouri, never saw wildfire smoke until I moved to Buffalo, and then it started becoming more of a regular thing. Like, what was it like 20 years ago?
I don't remember it from then. I can maybe remember it the first time, like, I want to say within the last 10 years.
So you started experiencing this in your 30s, basically, in 30s and 40s.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's weird because like we have such a short summer season as it is. Mm-hmm. And most people that live in our region really rely on the summer season to increase or to fill up their mental health bucket to be able to get through the winter.
Yeah, it's a recharge time of year right now.
And between the heat that we had earlier in this week, like I can't remember if I sent it to you, but the other day in Hamilton it was 126 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my God.
Like, so for all normal people, it was in the very high 40s Celsius.
Yeah.
And like at 11 p.m. at night, it was 106 degrees outside. And so, or I think that's like 40, mid 40s.
Yeah.
Mid to low 40s. And like at 11 p.m. at night, it should not be that hot. So like, you can't go outside when it's that hot. Like, what are you going to, you're just going to roast. And now it's hot and you can't breathe outside.
Yeah. It's been really crazy. And I first remember it get really bad in 2023. 2023 was really, really bad. And since I was so new to all of this, I would just be like going out on a bike ride, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, like gasping and coughing kind of, And then 2025 was really bad. So last summer had some bad stretches. But this one feels more like the really bad one in 2023. It feels worse than last year quite a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really weird to see it happen. And I've seen quotes about like climate change where it's like it's just going to be little things that all of a sudden you just start living through all of the time, and you never experiencing this, what is now annual here in Ontario and Western New York and up the Northeast. We're seeing it in real time, aren't we?
It's sad.
Yeah, it is, because you and I are both, missing out on, And it's so hilarious. It's so weird to me too to be disappointed about this for my personal selfish reasons because my home isn't burning down. Um, like a lot of people in Ontario, I've just seen like their towns like burned to the ground. I saw like Collins, Ontario, just like completely burned to the ground. So thinking about all the effects that could be so much worse for me, I feel like I have no room to complain whatsoever, and even then I'm still very disappointed because I love my outside time in July.
Yeah, and like both of us are avid cyclists, and
hmm
you cannot cycle in this right now. It is not safe.
I went 16 miles this morning and it was not very fun. Um,
Yeah, it's not safe. Like I'm wearing a mask outside right now because it's just not it's not safe to breathe. I have these fancy like you saw them because I got shipped them to your house, but these
hmm
fancy like Dyson air filter headphones that I have.
hmm
I'm like, I need Dyson to start making these things again because they don't make replacement filters for them anymore. So like these things would be great because I would have filtered air to breathe outside, except they discontinued making them, and now I have like the last ones in existence, and I can't get air filter replacements.
Well, if you see any you should look on eBay and see if there's any there. Because if any are in the U.S. for eBay or whatever, you can always have them shipped to me, as you know. So we're in that stage now where Steve needs air filters on his headphones made by Dyson, the vacuum company. They also make the Airblade hand dryers. I know way too much about Dyson. I own a
On,
couple of them.
on a side note, these are the best headphones I've ever owned in my entire life, by far.
Incredible. Okay, so we've got this song, Fire Season. Steve, whenever the album was coming out in 2025, we did this thing where you listened to every song and did an immediate reaction. So we're going to revisit you now in 2025, hearing Fire Season for the first time. Take it away, Steve, from a year and a half ago.
In a season of fire, breathe into your lungs and feel it in your stress.
Steve, you just heard Fire Season for the first time. How'd you feel about it?
That's a good song. I like it. I love the riff at the end when they all kind of comes back together after the 3/4 mark.
hmm
It really is the perfect way to end that song, like tying all those riffs into like that ending riff, and they just rock that out to the end. I love that. I love the tempo of the song. Again, slower. The guitar work is awesome in it. The drums are great. Todd's bass work, Todd's vocals are so good in it again. Like it's just exactly the type of song that I want on this record.
Yeah. It's got that drum beat too that I really love that they're doing on this one. It's that ba da ba da ba da ba. And it's not the boop bop boop bop boop bop boop
Yeah,
bop. You know what I mean? It's that snare forward driving beat. I really like that kind of stuff from them right now.
yeah, it's just got a whole different vibe, and like this song here can't fit on any other record.
Yeah. I
Like it does
mean,
not
maybe
fit anywhere
Potemkin,
else. But
like
like,
like maybe Potemkin, but like I don't know.
but
It,
also it
it
would be a stretch, right? Like,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
it fits in so well on this record. And like after we go through the last song, I'll kind of give like final thoughts on the record and stuff. But uh, I think this song is a very solid track 11 in an album sequence. I don't
Yeah.
think this song could be in the top 5 of like sequencing. I don't think you should put it within the first 5 of the songs, but I don't think it should be the last song either. I think it's perfectly sequenced in the 11 spot on the record.
Sweet. They nailed it then. All right.
I have high hopes for the end here because I'm a big fan of their closing songs, so I feel like I'm really really anticipating. Even they historically do a really good last 2 songs on every record, so I'm really really anticipating these next 2.
All right. Hold on a second.
Rising tides,
All right. So thank you to our guest, Steve, from a year and a half ago for doing an instant reaction on Fire Season. What what a guy. What a guy that Steve from a year and a half ago was. Pretty special, huh?
He sounded super handsome.
Yeah, very handsome. So the reason that I started working on this episode is because a few things have recently happened. Obviously, we are living through what the song describes outside of our windows right now, both of us. But somebody did a cover for this song in I think it's like an 8-bit like Nintendo style. And so the person who sent this in is Francois from France. He did he wrote to me and he said, "You probably remember those 8-bit versions of Victory Lap by Ghosty on YouTube. I tried reaching out a few times to see if there were any plans to cover the whole album, but never heard back. So I decided to try making a chiptune version myself on a free app called Furnace Tracker. Turns out it's way harder than I expected. I picked Fire Season, one of my favorite tracks from the album, which was definitely not the easiest choice. I spent countless hours trying to understand the math behind this song. Anyway, this is as far as I've gotten. Still a few details to figure out in terms of sound and drums. I doubt I'll have the patience to tackle the rest of the album. But if you ever want to use this for a future Fire Season podcast, feel free. Hope you like it." Thank you so much, Francois. I just wanted to, acknowledge the hard work that the listeners of this show have done over the years to make this show something special. And for there to be covers on our new song, new being over a year old now, but the At Peace songs still getting covers to this podcast over 6 years in, man, it's great. So this is Francois covering Fire Season in a chiptune format. Take it away. All right. Thank you so much to Francois for that fantastic cover. Steve, so I know that we already recapped that we're living through fire season right now, you and I, and it seems like this will be the case for until at least this weekend. We're expecting some rain. Anything else interesting going on in your neck of the woods up there?
We didn't get to talk about it because we recorded long before it last happened. But you and Patrina recently came up to go to a Hamilton Tiger Cats game,
Ooh, yes. I had a blast.
and that was the end of the Hamilton Tiger Cats season that night.
That was the end of the season?
Well, because of what happened. Oh no, it wasn't that night. It was the game after.
Yeah.
It was the game after that happened. 'Cause you saw the good game where they won
Yeah.
by
It was
a lot.
awesome. Yeah.
So the great game Greg and Katrina came up to. Ticats are the best team in the league. They're rolling.
Yeah.
Like first play of the game, like 60-yard pass. Like
Yes.
the game after Greg and Katrina came to, quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell goes down and breaks his ankle, gone for the season.
Oh my God.
and thus ended the season for the Hamilton Ticats, and now we are in the basement.
Oh,
We have
bummer,
not
man.
completed. We have not got a touchdown since he got injured.
Oh my God. No touchdowns.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that stinks. Hopefully the crowd hangs in there with the team just to kind of pump up the morale a little bit for how the season is. It like 2 more months, right?
Oh, it ends at the end of October.
Oh boy. So there's a long, hard slog to go, isn't there?
Yeah. So this Saturday they're playing the Argos here at home, and it's supposed to be pouring rain. So I expect there to be 15 people at the game.
Or will you be one of those 15?
Yes.
I mean, you have season tickets. There's something that happens to the human brain when you have season tickets to where like the thought of not going just feels impossible, right? It's like, man, but I got them season tickets, and it really kind of guilts you into continuing the journey, even when things aren't going great. Just ask the Buffalo Bills faithful for the last, 30 years.
Yeah, it's rough. Other than that, I completed my longest bike ride of the year this past Sunday.
You hit like a 68 miler or something?
105 kilometers.
Man, that's a good ride.
I was
All in
happy
gravel,
about
right?
that.
Too, you said, right?
All on gravel. So it was raw. I was very, very sore, and like I brought 3 water bottles with me, and I got some gels, so I had some gels too. But I was in pretty rough shape when I got back because I obviously want to try and ride and do the rides as quickly as possible, but the rail trail that goes from Hamilton to Brantford, which is like a full gravel and dirt trail, that's 45 kilometers long. Basically, like it crosses number like Highway 52. It crosses a bunch of like points, and like so you're going, on the straights I've got a good pace of like 30 kilometers an hour, which is good.
Cruising.
Then you have to come to a literal full stop to cross the highway, get across the highway, and then start again. And this happens probably, I want to say there's 25 road crossings on the trail. So like it's very hard to do it in a quick time, because the second you get up to a good pace, you have to completely stop to cross a busy road and then start again. So it affects your morale, because you're like, I can't do this in any, like I was like, before I left, I was like, I'm gonna do this in sub 3 hours. I did it in sub 5 hours because there's not a way. Like I was like, okay, sub 4 hours, realistic. Nope, it can't, because you constantly have to stop, and it just wears on you of stopping and starting and stopping and starting and stopping and starting, like rather than keeping a consistent pace. Like if it were a road ride where I didn't have to stop,
Right.
I would have been fine. But like
Man,
constantly stopping.
you still did really well though, because like for me on a road ride, in my 40s, I was a little faster whenever I was in my 20s and riding a lot. But like 50-mile ride, so it's about 80 kilometers almost up to the nose for the conversion. That still takes me 2 hours and 50 or 2 hours and 55 minutes on the road. So I mean, you did really well considering you went an additional like 18 miles on top of that.
But like, I realized that my comparison is completely unrealistic. But I look at our good friend Paul Klinkhammer Jr.
Paul Klinkhammer Jr.
And he's crushing out 110-kilometer rides
Yeah.
in 2 hours and 45 minutes.
He is a beast. I don't know how that man does it. I think he's like in his 50s too. I can't really tell how old he is, but I've never met the guy. But he's here in Buffalo and he's becoming a legend. He is a legend here. Everybody in Buffalo who knows about cycling knows Paul Klinkhammer Jr.
Like, that ride he did a couple weeks ago, 326 kilometers in 10 hours. I'm like, 326 kilometers.
Yeah. Yeah. He did, what was it? I think it was like 200 and it was how much was it? 300 and how many kilometers?
26 about.
320. Okay, so 200 over 200 miles, like 203 miles. In one ride. Like
in 10
unbelievable.
Hours.
Yeah.
Which is such an unbelievably fast time.
Yeah.
For that much distance.
Yes, it is. He is very unique, and I try not to compare myself to him as well because he's older than me, and he's just, he just must be at this time in his place in his life where he can just commit so much energy and time to exercise,
Like he cranks out daily 150-kilometer rides at 5 a.m. and then goes to work all day.
I know. I don't know how he does it. Like it's wild, and we can't compare ourselves to that, Steve. We're just not that guy. But it's so impressive, and I love looking at his routes too because he lives right by me, and I get tons of new like little route suggestions for him. Like I started riding up to like Lewiston recently because I was like looking at his Strava routes and stuff like that. So I love it. I love it. But now we can't do anything because the sky is
we're
coming to kill us all.
We're indoor cats now.
Indoor people. Here we are. Okay, so where were we? What do we have? What else do we have to talk about? Oh, we have some fun stuff for this fire season episode. I did 2 interviews recently. Should I tell you about these and then we'll just go into them?
Let's do it.
Okay, so 2 interviews that I've done for this episode are with friends of the show, Scott Unger from Los Angeles and John Danek, also from Los Angeles. I'm going to put those in that order. So Scott's interview is going to go first, and then Danek is going to bring up the rear on that. Scott has been listening to the podcast for a long, long time. We've communicated via email for a long time, and he lost his home in California in the 2025 wildfires, burned to the ground. And when Scott told me that on email, I was like, man, I want to hear this whole entire story. And I think it would be useful for listeners of the show to hear the story as well. And so Scott graciously came on. We chatted about his entire experience of losing his home entirely, the harrowing experience that he and his family went through while escaping, and then to this day dealing with like insurance and the rebuilding process and all this stuff. It is quite a story, and Scott is a massive Propaganda fan as well. So I am super delighted to feature Scott's story on the podcast for this particular episode. And then the other one is our friend of the show, John Danek, who has been on the podcast a couple times. He co-hosted an episode about I Spy with Paul Hodgert. And Danek interviewed Bill Conway from the Hard Times on that episode. And then I also did a standalone episode with Danek about his cover that he did for a speculative fiction. So Danek's been involved with the show for a long time, and he also fled his home during the 2025 Los Angeles fires. So these are great conversations. I hope everybody that listens to them enjoys them, and also, internalizes the story of what it like how things can really spiral out of control. Um, and what these guys went through is, I'm just grateful to them for sharing. So here are my conversations with Scott Unger and John Danek.
Highways, crowded cities, the hours draining from your life, burning lungs, rising tides. Follow your heart. I've no advice.
Scott Unger, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Greg.
I'm delighted that you're here, Scott. Why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners out there so they know just a little bit about you.
Sure. So, my name is Scott Unger. I'm a native Angelino here in Los Angeles. I was born and raised in the Pasadena area. I went to college in San Diego and then came back to LA after college. So, I haven't lived too much outside of Southern California. I have been fortunate to travel a decent amount, both inside the US and outside of the US, but lifelong Angelino here.
Wonderful. Well, a lot of the year I'm actually pretty jealous of you living out there because I live in Buffalo, and I'm always thinking like right now it's really warm here, and I'm like, man, there are places where it's like this every day. So, you know,
It's 72 degrees today.
wonderful. What a perfect day. Scott, tell me a little bit about your fandom of music in general. We've been in touch about propaganda for a couple of years now, just in email and social media. But tell me a little bit about your life as a music listener.
Sure. So, growing up, my dad had the Beach Boys and the Beatles on a lot. So, kind of that genre was kind of my first introduction to music. And then I think, like a lot of your listeners, mid 90s punk rock comes mainstream. So, Green Day and Offspring were kind of my on ramps into punk rock. And then I discovered Propaganda. I was trying to trace it back. I think it was 1997. I think it was the third Fat Comp that had True, the Concrete Bond cover on it. That was my
Nice.
introduction to them. And I was hooked from there. So went back and got Let's Talk and How to Clean Everything. And I remember this, my buddy Paul and I, just this anticipation of Empires coming out and got pushed back. We were like, oh my God, we can't wait for this record. And you hear Back to the Motor League come out. We're like, holy smokes, this is incredible. And so I saw them for the first time on that Empires tour at the Glass House here in Pomona. And I went back and found a YouTube. It's a terrible quality recording. They would hate it, but I found like 26 minutes of this concert at the Glass House, which is pretty awesome. So I will share with you too, if I may. I kind of lost touch with the band a little bit. I reconnected with them in 2017 through Victory Lap, and I love that album for so many reasons. And then your podcast really hit me at a time in 2023. It was a little bit late to the party, sorry, but my partner went through a health journey. She's okay now, but it was very taxing for us emotionally, mentally, and I really needed something to focus on that was not cancer. And your podcast really helped me through some tough times. So thank you for that.
Man, thank you for sharing that. I mean, what an honor. I mean, I'm glad that everything is okay now, and I'm glad that the show was able to, be of some solace, a little bit of a distraction, talking about some of our mutual favorite music.
Absolutely,
I'm glad it was there for you.
it was.
It's nice to hear those kinds of things too, like selfishly, because you never know who's listening, and you never know who's going through what at any given time. So
Yep.
that ranks among my all-time highest compliments I've received for the show. So thank you for that, Scott.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
so another thing that we were chatting about recently is when we were just emailing back and forth about a different thing. And you shared with me that you and your family went through the Los Angeles fires. And
Hmm.
like it just got me thinking about At Peace, the new record, and the song Fire Season, obviously. Um, and so, I want to talk about that experience because I think that talking about the song Fire Season and talking to people who have experienced some of the worst elements of that natural disaster, um, it's pretty huge. So I'm really glad that you're here to talk about this. Before we talk about the song specifically and your story, what do you think about At Peace? Where are you sitting with it a year into its release?
Yeah. I think it's top three.
Hmm.
I would go supporting cast, failed states, and then at peace. I know it's a different direction a little bit, I guess. I hear lots of elements from different records, and I love it that they are not the same band that they were 30 years ago. I would not be interested if they were the same band 30 years ago. So I'm really digging at peace.
Okay, good. Uh, what do you recollect about like listening to Fire Season through the first couple of times?
Yeah, so I remember seeing the track listing come out and going, "Oh boy, I wonder what this song is going to be about." Because the fire happened in January of 25,
Mhm.
and At Peace came out May of 25. So somewhere in between, you see the track listing, what have you. I was like, man, I'm very curious to see who's singing this song. What's that all about? And I sat there listening. We were at a temporary home. I'm sitting at the living room. Unearthing At Peace for the first time and get to this track, and I just go, it's slow, it's dark. I'm going, oh man, I'm gonna have to sit with this for a minute here. So I just kind of soaked it all in, and then I went to the lyrics thereafter. I was like, oh man, a lot of this is ringing true for not only our experience in January, but uh, in 2020 we had a bad fire here as well, that really sat with me.
Mm. Um, Tell me what happened in 2020.
Yeah, so there was the Bobcat fire. So we there's a fire out. We lived, I should maybe provide a little context. So we lived in Altadena, which is near Pasadena. So people have heard of the Rose Bowl or the Rose Parade. So it's a foothill community. We sit at the base of the San Gabriel Mountains. It's super picturesque. Anyway, in 2020, there was a fire. I think it was in Azusa or Glendora called the Bobcat Fire, and just smoke billowing everywhere. That's the thing that really stuck with me. It was the summer of 2020, so the pandemic is raging. We're all at home. You can't go outside. You have smoke outside. Our house had really old windows, so we actually had smoke like creeping into our house. And you go out and try to buy an air purifier, they're all sold out. And so I remember going online, being like, okay, what can I do here? And watching YouTube videos of how to make basically an at home, do it yourself air purifier. So we had box fans. So I had a couple box fans. You get an air filter and you basically duct tape it onto the box fan. And we ran those day and night for weeks to try and get this smoke out of there. But that really stuck with me where it's just the black skies, birds are leaving. That's what came to mind.
Yeah, burning lungs. I mean, and
Yes.
it's got to be a little weird being indoors inside your house and having it like that shortness of breath from like the part
Absolutely.
in the air. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, like here in Buffalo, we a couple years ago had really bad wildfire ash in the sky that came down from the Canadian wildfires
Hmm.
in like Manitoba and Ontario and Quebec. And I would be so like, you know, naive about it. I'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna go for a bike ride anyway. And I go out there and I'd be like riding on these like roads that I'm always on, and then I'm like, boom,
Yep.
gasping, you know, and realizing that, wow, this is really dangerous. And having that inside your house, and not even being able to escape it inside, it's got to be scary, right?
It was very scary. And that's the thing, to your point though, we're living, I guess, in the epicenter of fire season here, but it affects everybody across the country. You get smoke from the Pacific Northwest that goes through the middle of the country. Yeah, the Canadian wildfires to the East Coast with their smoke. So it's everywhere.
Yeah, that's something that I had never experienced growing up until just a couple of years ago, and it was just kind of it was a weird and ominous feeling for me. Like this can affect you in any kind of place. Like we would always think about it being like, Colorado and
Hmm.
California, but to experience it in Buffalo, coming down from Canada was wild. Thinking about like
Yeah.
the how far ranging the damage can be.
Hmm.
Okay, so the 2020 fire, how close did that get to you guys?
Not close to our house physically, but the smoke was everywhere.
Okay, so the ones that happened in 2025, Altadena that you mentioned, I mean, these
Mhm.
fires were getting international attention. Um, Tell me about the experience of what the sequence of events is like for these ones that a lot of people remember just from last year.
Sure. So there were two running concurrently here in LA. So we had the Eaton fire, which is where we were, the Altadena area, and then the Palisades fire closer to West LA in the Pacific Palisades. So two just gigantic fires raging at the same time. But I'll focus on the Eaton fire since that's that's where we were. So I remember it started on a Tuesday morning, and I remember being here at the office on a call, and the wind outside was just incredible, like nothing we've ever seen. We get these winds called the Santa Anas here in Southern California, so they can just blow. Uh, and it's a warm breeze, so it's a recipe for disasters as we've seen. Um, I remember being on a call just like we are right now and seeing the trees behind me just blowing like I've never seen. And it was very unsettling that entire day. Um, and I got home probably around 5 o'clock that evening, and around 6 or 6:30, we get a notification that there was a fire that started in Altadena, in East Altadena. We lived in West Altadena, so it was close but not imminent. So we get that notification, and my partner, she grew up in Northern California, so has been through similar drills with fire and evacuation warnings and that sort of stuff. So she had the presence of mind. Hey, let's put our kiddo to bed, and as soon as that's done, let's pack up just a few things and point our cars out the driveway. So if we do need to make a quick escape, we can do that. Actually done that a couple times before, and it's always just been a drill, right? So you think, okay, well, we probably won't get evacuated, but if we do, maybe it's for a day, maybe it's for 2 days, and we'll come back and it'll be fine. So I actually took out my cell phone and videoed our house of our belongings, which is a very weird thing to do. So you get your couch and your blender and your coffee maker and whatever as best you can. And we packed up, yeah, clothes for a day or two. We got our son's memory box, and we packed that in the cars. Got our dog kind of ready to go, and then we're tracking the fire on the news, and we're watching, and our power gets cut at about 9 p.m. or 9:30, somewhere in there. And where we live, we're like I said, we're basically at the base of the mountain. We don't get great cell reception, so we're like, okay, well, let's just see what happens here. And there's a thing called the Watch Duty app. I don't know if you have that where you are or not, but it
Mhm.
tracks. Okay, so it's an app that basically tracks and notifies you about fires. It's for sure in California. I don't know if it's in other states or not, but it gives you when the fire started, if it's advancing, if it's retreating, what the containment is, these sorts of things. And I will say it's gotten a lot better in the last year and a half since the Eaton fire,
Mhm.
but those notifications were not coming in on our phone, but we have an Apple Watch, and those were coming in on our watch. So, every 20 or 30 minutes, we're glued to this thing on, okay, what's going on? And finally, we had it. So I go down the hill at about 11 p.m., get in the car, drive down to get cell reception. And I check the phone, the Watch Duty app, and it's not imminent toward us. We're not in an evacuation zone. And as I'm driving home, kind of at a main intersection where we were, I peer out and I see flames on the mountain. I'm going, okay, well that's there, but it's not coming toward us. And all the reports were the wind was blowing east, so it was all going away from us. So come back home. We go to bed at maybe 11:30 or midnight, somewhere in there. And the wind again is just howling. So it's really unsettling. It's hard to sleep. I was kind of dozing in and out, but never really fully fell asleep. And then a little before 2 a.m., I was just like, okay, screw this. I'm getting out of bed. And I go to our living room and open the windows and look out onto the mountain, and I see flames coming down the mountain. I was like, oh, that is really bad. And I rushed back to our room, wake up my partner, said, we got to go, and we got to go right now. So she starts packing up, gets our son ready. I get our dog, I put our dog in the car, and we're about ready to go. And we have a next door neighbor he's a disabled vet, I think with some mental health stuff. And I was just like, I had called him, I had left him a message the night while everything was happening, while we are tracking the fire, said, Jim, you gotta pack some stuff up, be ready to go. But he never called me back. So my partner goes with our son, and they go down the hill, and I go next door and pound on his door. And it is super windy. It's hard to hear. There's smoke. It is a scene. And I'm pounding on the door for a few minutes. He finally answers the door, and he looks at me. I said, Jim, pack up a few things, look up the hill. There's a fire coming our way. This thing is imminent. We got to go. I'll give you a ride. And he looks at me and he slams the door in my face. I go, it's like just a gut punch, because I know it's hard for him to process things. So I bang on the door again. At this time, the sheriff comes through, and they're on their loudspeaker saying, everybody needs to leave. Everybody needs to leave. I flag one of them down and say, hey, can you please check on my neighbor? He needs to leave. He's got some issues. I'm happy to give him a ride. So two of them go up to his door, bang on the door. After a few minutes, he finally answers. They explain the situation to him, and he declines to leave. And they come back to me. I'm in the street, and they say, well, we can't make him leave. I was going, oh my God. Because now I'm at at a crossroads here of, do I go be with my family, or do I stay and try to get our neighbor out of this danger zone? And I went back one more time and banged all around his house on the doors and tried to get him to answer, and he just did not answer. And it came to a point where I had to leave. So I left. He was there. So I go meet up with our partner and my son, and we went to our friend's house. We had made a plan previously. Hey, if something does go down, we'll go to our friends. They're about 15 minutes away. So they welcome us in at, 3 a.m. or whatever it was. And we set up a pack and play for our kid. We're sleeping in their guest room, but it's just, none of us really slept that night. Um, we wake up the next morning, and the air quality is just awful. So again, talk about those burning lungs. You can't go outside. Schools were canceled that day. Businesses were closed. It was just like, I know y'all have snow days or whatever. Well, we had fire day. Everything's
Yeah.
just closed. Um, so we're talking to our friends, and we're texting with our neighbors, and nobody's up there. Nobody knows what's going on. And we actually made the decision to leave town. So the smoke was unbearable. So we went to a hotel about an hour away, and we get to the hotel, and it is packed. It was full to the gills. A bunch of other people had the same exact idea. It was like, we're getting out of town. And it felt, I mean, first world, but we were fire refugees essentially at this hotel. So we stayed there for a night, and it was we were with two other families we're very close with. And it was just this weird, like, we knew our house probably burned down, but we didn't know at that point. And our friends are trying to care for us. And it was just a very weird night. And then we ended up going further. So we went to Orange County. We drove the next day to Orange County to escape the fire and the smoke more. So we stayed there for a couple nights. I should back up. While we were at the first hotel, we were in touch with a friend who's a firefighter, and he lived in Altadena. So we actually had access. And we said, I don't know if you're on call, if you're sleeping, like whatever, but if there is a chance, I know you're going to be checking on your house. If you want to check on our house, we'd really appreciate that. And he was able to. And he sent us photos, at probably like 10 photos, and our house was gone.
Yeah.
So we found out, maybe it was Wednesday, probably midday, that we found that out. The fire started on Tuesday. We pieced together that our house probably burned around 5 or 6 a.m., so only a couple hours after we left, which seems like a lot, but when those flames are right there, it was not a lot.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot about insurance over the last year and a half, and had the presence of mind to go online and look up resources. And luckily, or fortunately, folks from different fires in California have kind of put together best practices online. So that was pretty easy to find about when you're talking to your insurance, how you advise them, what you say, all these sorts of things. So got on the phone with them, and that was a surreal experience saying, I need to file a claim that our house is burned down. We're we're fortunate that we have been I would not treated well, but our insurance company has fulfilled their contract. That's how you should view it. That's what it is. It's a contract. They've fulfilled that, which is great. But we have many neighbors and friends where that has not been their experience. So
Mm.
we can touch more on that later if you like on the insurance response. But anyway, our story, we go down to Orange County, hunker down there for 2 days. We now know that our house is gone, and we're thinking, how what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna live? My parents live in Pasadena, so that was an option that they offered to us. So it was nice to have kind of as a fail safe. But we're so fortunate. A family friend had an apartment in Glendale, so like another neighboring city to Pasadena and Altadena. They had a lease that had a month and a half left in Glendale, and they called my mom and said, "Hey, I saw what happened. If Scott wants to stay at our apartment rent free, he and his family are welcome to do that." So we got to move to an apartment, a furnished apartment for a month and a half, rent free, while we were figuring everything out. Just an absolutely incredible. Uh, I still can't really wrap my head around the generosity that we've received from people. It's just been remarkable. It's been a dark time, but at the same time, seeing the response from a lot of fellow humans, kind of, it re-inspires you a little bit. So
I presume that at some point you were able to go back to the site of where your house was.
yeah, so we did, and that so uh, after everything kind of settles, there's a government response, FEMA, and then the Army Corps of Engineers was engaged to basically clear debris from all these lots. So they've got to clear, there's, obviously drywall or hazardous materials where, you've got a lot of electric vehicles where we live. So those batteries and solar panels and all these sorts of stuff. So it's a little bit precarious, and there's other toxins and contaminants that come from those things that we can talk about later if you like. But yes, we did get to go to our house. So the protocol was you engage the Army Corps. They'll give you like a 3-day heads up as to when they're coming to clear your lot. So we thought, oh, well, this isn't going to happen for a month or 2 or 6 or who knows. And we were actually one of the first parcels to get cleared. So they called us, I think it was on a Wednesday, and said, "Hey, we can be there tomorrow, Thursday. Are you guys ready?" We're like, no, haven't really wanted to touch this yet, because at this time things are swirling about. There's a bunch of lead, there's a bunch of asbestos, there's a bunch of, contaminants from solar panels and all these sorts of things. So we made a decision that we did want to go sift through the ashes on our property. We had been to the property once before, but just kind of stayed to the side and didn't really want to walk it. And that was a very sobering and kind of dark experience. When we went to sift through our ashes, we suited up like Walter White in Breaking Bad, where it's just, okay, you got the hazmat suit, you got your respirator, and my partner and I and one good friend, we sifted through the ashes in our house, and we tried to focus on our son's room to see if there was anything that was there, and there was not, unfortunately. We had received some platinum ware from our wedding, and we actually found a ton of plates that were relatively fine, but not going to use those obviously. But we scraped together a few things. There was like a Christmas ornament that we found, so we might do like an art project or some like tribute in the future. We've set it aside. We haven't really touched it since then. So that's kind of hanging out there as a to be determined. We do want to do something to honor that space. But fast forward, unsuit, Army Corps arrives. They've got like an excavator and a crew of probably like 10 people. And they come back and they say, "Hey, have you looked for anything that you haven't been able to find?" And we said, "Well, I went through our son's room. Pretty sure there's nothing there that you're gonna be able to find. It's all just ash." But there was this family heirloom, this beer stein, from my partner's grandfather. When he passed away, we took that and we had that in our kitchen. I was like, man, I have this attachment to that for some reason. I said, well, we were looking for that, and the kitchen was over there. And said, okay, well, we'll check it out. So they take the excavator and kind of curve around the driveway and plunge into the ash and pull up. And one guy runs in and doesn't find anything. And they say, okay, let's try again. Take two. And I didn't find anything. And on the third try, plunge of ash comes out. They found the beer stein in this rubble. Just
Hmm.
incredible. It was damaged a little bit, but that is something that we get to keep. And I was blown away that they were able to find that thing. But
Man.
it was dark and light at the same time. I don't know if that sounds weird, but yeah.
I have a couple beer steins from my own family as well in the other room
Mm.
here that I've kept after my mom's uncle passed away and my grandparents passed away. I was going through their stuff and I'd always loved those beer steins. And they actually are stamped made in West Germany,
Oh wow.
pre-Berlin Wall fall.
Hmm.
So I have these West German beer steins in the other room that hopefully I'll get to hang on to for a long time. So
That's awesome.
I totally get why those particular items can be so special.
Yeah.
Um, what has rebuilding been like? What happens to properties once a natural disaster like this happens? Like, are you able to rebuild in the same spot? Do you still own this land? What's going on? How does that all work?
Yep. So we do own the land still. We do plan on rebuilding. We've had some health issues that we've had to address over the past year, so we haven't taken the steps that some folks have had, but we're finally at a point in our lives where we have a proposal from an architect to move forward with plans. So we're inching our way along, which is good. I should come back to our next door neighbor and pick up
Oh
that
yeah.
thread because a few days after the fire, I'll condense it here. Long story short, he was at the Red Cross Evacuation Center here in Pasadena. He was alive. We had filed a missing persons report. So we were getting calls about, well, he might be here, might be there. We finally found him, got him out of the center, and got him into a hotel. And he lived at a hotel for probably 3 months. And just, there's still people living at hotels. It is remarkable, not in a good way. Um, Long story short, though, our neighbor rebuilt his house and was in about 1 year from the date of the fire to when he moved in. He is rebuilt in and living life. So there are people that have done that. I think there's been 98 houses that have been rebuilt in Altadena. There were about, I've seen conflicting reports, but I've seen about 9,000 structures that burned. So there's still a long way to go for it. 98 that have been rebuilt. And there's various degrees of progress. There's a lot of construction in our neighborhood, which is really encouraging to see. Um, Sorry, what was the rest of your question?
Oh, I don't remember actually now. About the rebuilding, like just
Oh,
the
yeah.
process of all that, because it's just so huge to think about an entire community being essentially leveled and then wondering what the process of putting all of that back is like, you know?
Absolutely. And so our other next door neighbor did not have insurance. So they are in a different situation where they don't know if they can rebuild. Um, it really depends. You have folks who were insured and they were fine. We were insured but underinsured. So what it would cost to build our house today versus what we were insured for, there's a gap there. So we're trying to figure out how to make up that gap. It runs the whole gamut.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to build a house that's smaller with that gap of finances? Has there been some plans to kind of like meet yourself somewhere in the middle where you can actually pull off?
So there is a lawsuit against a power company called Southern California Edison. We are part of that. I won't go into too many specifics. I'm sure listeners can look at LA Times or what have you and figure out what's going on. But
Sure.
the goal of that is to make up for that gap.
Got it. Got it. Amazing. Well, I'm really happy to hear that Jim made
Yes,
it out. Did you hear the story of how he was able to be convinced to actually leave? Because if he ignored you while you were that frantic and trying that hard to get him out, and then he actually made it out, because I was presuming that you were leaving him for dead.
yeah, I presume the same thing. So we're in touch with other neighbors this entire time. A lot of solidarity, a lot of communication, and we finally pieced together. This is when Jim's in a hotel. This is after he would not tell us what happened. So we had to
Mm.
connect with another neighbor. So we find out he was wandering around the streets at probably 5 or 6 a.m. He did tell me that he watched our house burn down,
Mm.
um, which is just incredible. His truck caught on fire, his house was on fire, so he was wandering the street, and our neighbor had come back up the street. I still don't know why they came back up, but they saw Jim and gave him a ride down the hill. So it's just chance that he survived. It's incredible.
Wow. So, when you think about places like Florida, which are super hurricane prone, right? In the last 5 years, you've heard about a lot of these places becoming uninsurable. A
Hmm.
lot of people are moving out of Florida because of these skyrocketing insurance premiums and things like that. Is that happening to you guys as well?
Yeah, so in our area, there are a lot of insurance carriers that have pulled out from the state of California, won't write new policies or renew policies. So there's folks in our community where they had their policy, and when it comes up for renewal, the insurance company says, "Nope, we're not going to renew you." There is something in our state called the Fair Plan, California Fair Plan. So it's kind of a last resort where basically these insurance companies pay into this fund, and then it's not great insurance. I think it only covers your dwelling, so your personal property is not covered. But at least it's kind of a bare bones stopgap. So there is that, but there's going to be a reckoning. I don't know what it's going to look like. There's a lot of talks because it's not just California, it's not just Florida, it's Texas. You've got hailstorms in Oklahoma. I mean, it's gonna. I don't know what's going to happen, but there will be a reckoning.
I mean, here in Buffalo, it's gonna be hitting too because so much of our winters, the storms are getting so heavy as far as wind speeds are increasing. Like we
Mm,
only have winds of like 80 miles an hour in the wintertime.
um,
So I mean, it's pretty scary here in the wintertime for that too. What's your living situation like these days while you're waiting to rebuild?
So we were very fortunate once again. So we had that month and a half apartment, and then my brother's boss put an email out to their company and said, if anybody was affected by the fire, let me know. And if nobody was affected here, I would like if you have some sort of first degree relationship, I might have an opportunity for them. So long story short, she relocated to Geneva where her partner lives, and she let us rent her house basically at cost for a year. So
Mm.
again, just an amazing show of generosity. And then we did have to move, so we moved to a neighboring community here in January. So we have stable housing. A lot of folks still don't have stable housing, and a lot of the insurance funds are running out. So one of the buckets of money in an insurance policy is loss of use. So if you're displaced or something happens, you can use that toward rental elsewhere. But a lot of those funds are running out for a lot of people. There are talks about what can be done. Can there be mortgage forbearance? I know that some of our Congress people here locally put something into Congress, uh, but more money got approved for Iran. So we're just hanging out here. So yeah.
Wow. And then a few months after this happens, Propaganda puts out Fire Season.
Yep.
Like that had to have
Yeah,
been such a strange experience for you.
it was.
Um, oh man. Well, Scott, is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that you feel was important about your story or anything like that that we didn't talk about that you definitely wanted listeners to know?
I don't think so. I think the only thing else that I would say, and I think we kind of touched on it, is that we're not just in a fire season. It's wind season, it's flood season, it's drought season. All these things are going on everywhere we live. So
Yeah. Well, geez. Scott, thank you so much for coming on to tell me about your story, for contributing to the podcast in such a personal way, and that relates so directly to this specific song. I'm really glad that you were able to come on here and kind of tell everybody what it was like to go through something like that. because, you've got the interpersonal dynamics between your neighbors and your child and your dog and your partner, and then like bouncing around from home to home. And even though you've been very fortunate, it's still moving over and over and over. You know what I mean? So, and then dealing with insurance. And it's a year and a half later. Like, it's not like this is a quick process. Like, it's amazing to me that Jim is already rebuilt and in his new house.
That
Um,
is incredible.
yeah. So thank you so much for coming on and talking about the complexity of this situation and recapping the fires that hit LA in early 2025, because I was watching the video of it and it was surreal to watch just on video. So I'm glad that you made it out, and I'm glad that things are going decently for you guys a year and a half later.
They are. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's an honor to share my story.
Thank you, Scott.
are burned alive. Believing that something lies ahead that puts to rest all the things following behind us.
John Danek, welcome back to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
Hey, Greg, thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure to come on. It feels good to be back.
I'm delighted that you're here, John. So I just wanted to remind listeners a little bit about who you are. You've been on the show several times, but just tell people who you are and what you do real quick.
Sure. I am a humor writer. I'm a musician. I am a software developer. And I am a rabid propaganda fan. And I would say my fandom is a little unusual compared to the average propaganda fan. I really became obsessive, I would say, in the mid 2010s. That's where my fandom really took off. So I'm a latter-day propaganda fan. I don't listen to How to Clean Anything pretty much ever. For me, propaganda starts at today's empires, tomorrow's ashes. Though the Less Talk More Rock episode that just came out recently at the time of recording kind of reignited my love for that album. So I realize I haven't quite given that one the fair shake it deserves. But yeah, you can find my writing on The Hard Times, McSweeney's, a couple other places throughout the internet. Yeah, I run my mouth and should probably stop, but I can't.
Man, I saw that you had posted something about McSweeney's. You got published by McSweeney's again recently, right?
Yeah, it was a Easter themed article about very much believing in the literal Easter bunny.
Yes, I did read that. That's all coming back to me now. Like we were talking about earlier, I don't have a memory anymore, and paying attention to time is very confusing. But I now remember your Easter bunny, your literal Easter bunny article for McSweeney's. I was a big McSweeney's fan back in the day. I have this huge McSweeney's box set on my bookshelf in the other room there.
Oh, wow. I've never actually seen any of like the books or the box sets in person. I should pick up one.
I will maybe send you a couple pictures because it's really interesting stuff. The packaging for that publication is just one of the most amazing and artistic forms of publishing that I've ever seen, which is what grabbed my attention to their stuff. And then it's like, oh, it's also funny. Okay, well, this is fantastic. Then I need to get back into reading it, I think.
I'm at the same point of life. I'm trying to read more. It's tough.
Yeah, what are you
But it's
reading
worth
right
it.
now? What are you reading?
I'm actually reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, Book 2, which is a popular, mildly erotic fantasy, romantasy series that my wife like read through in a matter of days, seemingly, and recommended. And I'm not usually a fantasy reader, but I like the fact that this series just gets right to the point. They're not going to spend 3 chapters describing like a countryside. They get into the action, and it's very readable. So I'm digging that a lot.
Excellent. I just read Project Hail Mary. I recently read the Dave Mustaine memoir. I read Girl in a Band
Ooh.
by Kim Gordon recently.
Girl in a Band is so good. I listened to the audiobook of that, and Kim Gordon reads it.
Her voice is great.
Yeah. And also, so she was my last concert I saw pre-COVID. And I know there's this kind of like meme joke amongst musicians that like at a certain age, you can't do good music. Her last 3 albums are my favorite things that she's ever done. And she's like in her 70s now. She's an incredible artist and musician. So she gives hope to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is I'm not a big Sonic Youth person at all. I've listened to their records. It's just never really grabbed me, but I
Mhm.
have listened to her solo records since Sonic Youth have ended, and I like all of them quite a lot. So I'm with you on that. Um,
Totally.
Another thing I'm reading right now is called Tearing Down the Orange Curtain: How Punk Rock Brought Orange County to the World. So that's a biography of a music scene that I'm also reading at the moment.
What is the name of the author of that?
Nate Jackson and Daniel Cohn co-authored it, and
Okay.
yeah, it's good. It's cool. Like right now, I'm in a chapter. Um, Tons of attention like Social Distortion, The Adolescents, TSOL, like bands from like the late '70s and early '80s. They kind of put that scene on the map, so to speak.
Oh, cool. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out, being so close to that locally.
Yeah, yeah. So that yeah, nice little recap of our reading, our attempts to get back into reading
Yeah.
after having our brains broken by the world for the last
Oh
several
God.
years. It is
Yeah.
so important to attempt to reclaim our time and our attention spans. It is I'm a work in progress on that for sure.
Yeah.
Ugh, it sucks. Okay, so John, you have been on this podcast several times. The first time you were here was when I invited you in 2023 as a reaction to your Hard Times piece where you ranked the Propaganda records. Folks can find that. You covered a speculative fiction on that episode, which was great, which then later went on the little book companion compilation CD.
Oh,
Um,
that was so cool. Thank you for including that on there. I have that on my bookshelf here in my apartment, proudly on display.
Yeah, one of 200 for the whole world. So there you go. You got a little memento with your name on it. Um,
Awesome.
and then you came back in 2024, which was very exciting because this is an episode I had nothing to do with, and so I got to listen to it as a fan, where you and Paul Hodgert talked about I Spy's Guide to Excruciatingly Correct Behavior, which is the B side to the I'd Rather Be Flag Burning 10-inch, but also came out as a CD. You talked to Bill Conway from the Hard Times on that, so that was a lot of fun. And you and Paul did an amazing job co-hosting that episode.
Oh, thank you. Paul made it all a lot easier. I hate to give Paul too much credit, but he deserves most of the credit. And it really gave me an appreciation for what you do. Between all the research, all the preparation, I was pretty nervous about that one going in. I was also secretly afraid that for some reason I would have to interact with Todd, and in my mind he would be pissed about my ranking of the Propaganda albums for the Hard Times, which is a completely unfounded paranoid fear that I had that I still can't let go of.
Yeah, no, that was a great job. You guys did an amazing job. And like one of my favorite things that's kind of come out of that is when I realized that you could guest host. I started putting that feeler out there to other people, be like, hey, I'm into having some guest hosted shorter episodes. If anybody's down, let me know. And I got like 7 or 8 guest hosted episodes since then,
And there's
which
so
were
much
all very
fun to
fun.
listen to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I need less of me. I need more other people in the world. Like, so I was trying to for a while to make this more of a community oriented project. To if anybody wants to get into podcasting, like, and you like propaganda in any way, like it's the invite's still there, so anybody can still do it. And you guys did an amazing job on that one. It's really special.
Oh, thank you.
And then the last thing you did, which was a lot of fun, is you covered Hard Times by the Cro-Mags on episode 117, and then you sent me your instrumental version, and then I covered it vocally as well over your music. So that was a super fun little collab for that episode too, which featured Paris Mayhew from Cro-Mags, which was very cool.
Unreal. And I think at least ever since then, I think that cover of Hard Times, at least according to my monthly streaming numbers, is typically the most streamed thing that I've put out, which is pretty cool.
Oh, very cool. So
Yeah.
there's a little nice little recap of your contributions. If anyone wants to find the I Spy episode, it was September 18th, 2024. The Hard Times episode 117 came out in November of 2024. So you've been around, man. This is like year three, four of
I,
contributing to Unscripted Moments. It's so cool.
I can't believe it's only been 3 years because it really that the episode with speculative fiction feels like a decade ago.
It
Like
truly does.
so much has happened, I think, probably in both of our lives since then that 3 years really underplays what has happened in that period of time.
Well, we're going to talk about some of that. So,
Yeah.
since you and I have been here last, At Peace came out and it just celebrated its year anniversary. How are you feeling about At Peace after some time has passed and it has settled into the rest of the Propaganda catalog?
It is shocking that it's been a year because I remember when I got the Bandcamp notification, I was actually, this desk was in that corner of this room. And I just dropped everything that I was doing and downloaded it. Yeah, it still very much feels like the new album when it comes on. It still has that new song goodness. And I still listen to it very frequently. A lot of those songs are on my gym playlist.
Mm.
It's so good.
Yeah. Did you feel that it was a departure for them in any way, or did you feel like it was like a logical next step? Because for me, it was a big departure, but over time has passed, that feeling has dulled a little bit. But yeah, I felt like very surprised by the record.
I still very much feel like it's probably the biggest left turn in their discography from album to album. And I think probably the biggest departure in their sound. I was just surprised. It just felt like the average tempo of their songs came down dramatically. So sonically, it was different. It has a little bit more of a doomy vibe than, fast punk thrashers. There's definitely some of that, but that was surprising to me. And I would say maybe even the bigger surprise was lyrically, and that in all the albums previously, it's so dense with specific references to history or politics, things happening in the world. And this one is much more metaphorical and abstract, and that really threw me for a loop.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
So we're going to chat about Fire Season for a little
Yes.
bit. Track 11 from At Peace. You live in LA,
Yes.
very notoriously affected by wildfire, one of the most affected and populated places in the country that I can tell that is affected by this. I know that you have been impacted by it in certain ways, and you see it firsthand living where you live. So I don't know how you feel about this song as a song. Like, do you like this song? How do you feel about this one where it sits on the record for you as far as like rankings go? Because I didn't invite you here to talk about it because it's your favorite. I invited you here
Yeah.
because of the topic.
Yeah, totally. It is one of my favorite songs on the album. I think it's one of my favorite Todd songs ever. This and Guiding Lights are, I don't know, Todd at his finest, getting very creative. I think Guiding Lights and also No Longer Young are it's like a new step for him songwriting wise. I feel like Fire Season is like the masterclass of what he's done up until now. It's very proggy, very intricate timing wise. I can barely even like tap my foot along with it when I'm listening to it. Like it's just shifting with every single riff. Yeah, and sonically it's just, I don't know, incredible. Um,
Yeah.
but like just very different. There's not necessarily a hook in the song per se. Um, yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on Fire Season.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it starts off so slowly,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And the parts where it's got like more of the like that hooky little riff part, like that little lick on the guitar, to me that's the hook for the song.
Agreed.
It's like that part where they do that little riffy part that
Mhm.
stands out, the guitar line that really is distinct and stands out. And when the drums are going a little faster, so it's so recognizable in that part. But like it kind of reminds me of like that little connection section in Cop Just Out of Frame from Victory Lap, that little proggy mid section in Cop Just Out of Frame kind of reminds me of that. But then
Totally.
it's so slow. So instead of going
Yes.
faster, it goes way slower. So it's a very, very big shift because you would think that would be the slow part in a song
Yeah.
compared to
Yeah.
what they usually do. So the main section is very slow and then it speeds up, but then it gets slow again. So the slowness of it to me and then that little licky guitar part are the main cruxes of the song.
Totally. Yeah. I love how it starts slow with this like Black Sabbath candle
Yeah.
massy feel and George hitting the ride cymbal on it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it is such an apocalyptic vibe and very, very appropriate for the subject matter.
So I got to go on a little tangent here just momentarily. When I was 17 and working in a record store in St. Louis, we had a saying around the store where anytime somebody would say the name Candlemass, the other person would say rocks your ass. So it'd be Candlemass, and then the other person would be like rocks your ass. So
Okay.
yeah. So the Candlemass rocks your ass. Shout out to my Street Side Records peeps from 25 years ago.
Man, they should put that on a shirt.
Dude,
That
it's
would
great.
sell.
Candlemass rocks your ass. And I remember the first time I ever heard it and everything. So anyway, okay, so tell me a little bit about your experiences of what it's like being a person who moved to LA, coming to experience like fire season in LA. Just tell me, like,
Sure.
because I know you're not from there, so
No.
you grew up somewhere else, Pennsylvania,
Yep.
go to
Uh,
LA, and then you
mhm.
come to experience this phenomenon that happens, which is so crazy every single year. What's this like for you?
Yeah. So I moved to Los Angeles in 2014. I grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania, like south of Pittsburgh a little bit, kind of where West Virginia cradles Pennsylvania in that corner. Moved out in 2014. And then I remember that first year, 2014, was like a significant drought year. So it was dry, dusty. Every time you looked at any sort of local news, they were telling about some new water ordinance where you were supposed to save your water and not shower too long, etc. Once you dig in, you realize that the individual use of water is truly a drop in the ocean compared to like industrial farming and whatever horrific things companies are doing to destroy California. But they put the onus on the individual more than anybody pressures corporations. But anyways, yeah. So when I first moved out here, I thought like, oh my God, this state is always in a drought. It seems like a tinderbox. And I believe that there were some pretty significant wildfires more to the north of Los Angeles. Like once you hit, I think like Bakersfield and north and probably Ventura. And a phenomenon I noticed is that when a fire gets to a certain size, it will hit national news. And then friends from home who aren't familiar with the geography would then text me and be like, "Are you okay?" And I don't I especially don't really pay that much attention to local news. I probably should more, but I would always just be like, "What are you talking about?" And then they say like, "Oh, I saw in the news that there's this huge fire in blah 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 Ventura or somewhere," and I would be like, "I don't even know where that is. I don't think it's anywhere near me, so I think I'm good to go." So that had been kind of my wildfire experience for years up until 2025. And in January 2025 is when these big fires that really affected the greater Los Angeles area happened. And my now wife, at the time fiance, just got finished with holiday travel for the year. We got back to our apartment in the Studio City neighborhood of Los Angeles, which is near North Hollywood. And I think we had 1 or 2 days to rest up when these fires started happening. And again, at first, it was like, oh, there's this fire. It's actually kind of near us, but it seems like they're going to get it under control. And then I remember a few hours later realizing, oh, this is growing and this is like a significant issue. So I think we went to sleep Tuesday evening tracking the news. And my now in-laws live very close to where the Palisades fire was happening.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the Palisades fire, there was one in near Alta Vista, which is probably about 15 miles to the east, much more inland. And I know I have former coworkers and friends who live out there. So this was the first time it was really like hitting home and affecting us. So like early COVID, it was one of those times where it was like, oh, we have to do something. Like things are going to be different for a period of time. And my wife was tracking air quality issues because that we weren't close enough to a fire where I was worried about our apartment building burning down. But we were very concerned about air quality. Whenever we walked outside, like the sky was orange. There was a noticeable mass of smoke in the air. It was really scary and unpleasant. And when I think it was that Wednesday morning, we decided, hey, let's load up the car. Let's get out of town for a few days. Like there's not really anything to gain by staying here. So we drove down to San Diego and posted up in a Best Western for a few days. And actually, one of my strongest memories of that very chaotic time is we got down there Wednesday night and we're keeping in touch with friends. See, some people went to Vegas, some people went to San Francisco, some people stayed a little closer. And Glenn and I went down to San Diego and we got there, brought our stuff into our room, and we're just kind of like, well, what do we do now? So we walked to a local bar, did karaoke, and had a couple beers, and it was like, I guess we'll just wait to see what the news says. Yeah. And there's also a weird phenomenon with times like this where I'm a software developer for my day job and I work primarily remotely. So most of my coworkers were at the time were in Europe or New York or Orange County, which weren't necessarily affected by the fires. So I was like, hey, I'm going to be on the road. I'll be in touch. And to everybody else, it was just business as usual. So during the day in that hotel, I was just working like normal, but also having a million tabs up with like fire maps and keeping in touch with friends and family. So very chaotic, strange time. And thankfully, my home was not affected, but my landlord, I was renting directly from a guy who owned a condo. He had a house in Alta Vista. That house completely burned down. They lost everything except for the clothes that they packed up when they were leaving. And unfortunately, that meant that while we were down in San Diego, we got a call from him and said, hey, I'm sorry to do this, but we have to move back into the condo. And he legally could evict us because our lease was at a month-to-month point. We were no longer on the initial year. We were month to month. So all he had to do was give us 30 days and we had to be out. So that was a very stressful time. We were in the middle of planning our wedding. So I was already stressed to the gills with wedding planning, which is not my forte. And then add having to suddenly find a new home in the midst of all that, while thousands of other people are also apartment hunting because people lost their houses, got evicted, etc. So really just, I think my first few gray hairs started to come in January 2025, and now there's quite a bit more.
Man, I resonate with that big time. So yeah, so many people were affected too. I was seeing tons of like musicians and writers and people like all
Yeah.
over, like the host of the Bandsplain podcast, Yasi Salek, her house burned to the ground.
Yeah, she had a house in Alta Vista. I think that was probably that in the Palisades are where most houses, most residential houses burned. Oh,
Yeah. Did you, so you're in the place now that you had to move into when you got evicted from your other place, right?
correct. Yeah. And now I'm back much more in the city. And now that all the dust has settled and we're settled into this place, I'm weirdly thankful for it because I like my neighborhood now so much more. I was in a borderline suburban neighborhood. There wasn't much to walk to, and now I'm in the Koreatown neighborhood of Los Angeles, which is super dense. There's so much stuff. I really like it, but
Awesome.
I would have preferred to move at a time of my own choosing.
Yeah, there's so much imagery too in this song, right? That kind of
Yes.
whenever you experience what wildfires do to the environment around you. Like I live in Buffalo and obviously it's not LA, but we regularly get wildfire ash in the air from northern Ontario wildfires, Quebec wildfires. And I remember a couple years ago, it was so bad for weeks in like, I think it was June, and the sky was brown. And I was out riding on my bike like usual because I was like, I'm going to tough my way through this. I'm going to
Yeah.
business as usual. And I was out there and like my eyes were watering and my I was gasping for breath while I was on a bike ride. And the imagery in the song is it's just the black sky, the burning lungs.
Burning lungs. Oh,
It's
yeah.
crazy like you just think you can power your way through these types of things whenever you're not used to that air quality situation, you know?
Totally. I'm very thankful to Glenn, my wife, for encouraging us to leave because in times of emergency, I tend to just adopt that. I'm like the dog in that meme where I'm like, no, this is fine. Things will be normal. And then I'm just like huffing smoke. If I'm going to damage my lungs, I want to do it with like the one hammered cigarette I allow myself per year, not because the state of California is on fire. That's not a fun way to damage your body.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, did you have any other friends, or any like stories that you saw from people that were, connected to you in any way that have been affected by this kind of stuff?
Totally. So, th at the reason I moved out to Los Angeles was to work for Team Coco Digital, which was the web team for Conan O'Brien. So I'm friends with a lot of the people involved in working with Conan, and I know at least a handful of people like Sona, his assistant, her house burned down. She also lived in Altadena. So, and she has a whole family and they had to coordinate, get out of there, try to save what they could. But oh yeah, plenty of people. Yeah, thankfully my in-laws truly the fires came up within I want to say like a few hundred yards of where their house was. They left when they returned to their house, there was just a layer of black ash over everything. They had to have professional cleaners come so that it was safe to be in because their house didn't burn down, but the air quality in there was so bad. Like air purifiers wouldn't even come close to doing enough. They had to actually have people in like hazmat suits come in and get rid of all that ash.
So, does the inside of their house like carry any sort of like trace odor at all, like from all that kind of
It
stuff?
it doesn't anymore, but once they cleaned it, I think they had to just leave the windows open for like a week and just let fresh air come and cycle throughout the house. I think they also had like fans set up and everything, but yeah,
Oh man.
scary.
When I'm thinking about this song too, there's a couple of lines that really stand out to me. I really like the line where it's like somehow we've become resigned that our turn has come. It's like we're all
Yeah.
just sitting here waiting for it to get us. You know what I mean?
It,
Whatever it may be, wildfire, war, inflation. Like we're just like I just look around and I just see that as being a common theme in society in general. Our time has come.
Totally. It's fun. This album came out in May 2025, so I don't think that there's any way that the LA fires influenced Todd's writing. The song must have been done and recorded by that
Yeah,
point.
yeah, they recorded in the fall of
Yeah.
2024. So yeah.
Okay. But it looking at the lyrics, it sounds like it described that the LA 2025 experience precisely. And that somehow we become resigned line that hits home because between wildfires and knowing that the big one earthquake will happen at some point, it is like, am I crazy for living here? Unfortunately, I love it. I don't want to live anywhere else. This is my favorite city I've ever lived in as an adult. Not that I've lived a bunch of places, but I really do love it here. But we all know that like these bad things can happen at any moment, and it does feel a little kooky toughing it out here.
Hmm. Yeah. And then the other one is I've no advice, where it's like I've no advice. And I'm just like, man, because like if you go through these types of things, like went through those January 2025 fires, you saw it, you saw people impacted, and then life goes on, and it's like, are you prepared for the next time it happens? And it's like, I don't have any real
It,
clue what's going on.
yeah, totally. The I have no advice combined with the breathe it in your lungs and feel it in your stress. I remember the first time I listened to this song, I like it. I love it musically, but like it made me feel bad. It was like such a bummer. And I was just like, come on, thanks Todd for this little glimmer of hope here. I have no advice. And then it just goes back to the slow part. It's such a gut punch of a song. It gives me a similar feeling to is it impending half head that ends with that line where it's like, don't kill yourself
Yeah.
yet. But
Yeah.
like Todd has this penchant for just shutting off the lights at the end of his song. It's just like a giant middle finger, and it's effective. It's very. I think he's succeeding at what he wants you to feel, but it's sometimes such a bummer.
Yeah, he's really good at it. But and then there's also this line here at the end, where the tone shifts in the song where they believe in that something lies ahead. and it gets like happy sounding, right?
A little bit,
There's this
yeah.
big tone shift in that part of the song, and then it ends with a fading daydream, and then it gets dark again, where it's like
Yeah.
that guitar solo. Oh man, it's kind of a journey. This is like a 4 minute song where there's a bunch of parts where it feels like lots of mood shift throughout, and then it kind of just keeps you on the edge of your seat a little bit. It's not a very super predictable song. It's a song that takes some work to follow along with, but it's an interesting little journey.
Totally. I think it feels very, I'm connecting this to every Todd song, but it also feels very related to Negretto, in
Mhm.
that just musically it's so complex, so unpredictable. Yeah. It is hard to follow along with. I've listened to it a bunch of times, and sometimes I'll be listening, and if I lose focus for a second, I'll come back and be like, wait, what part of the song am I in? Like, am I 30 seconds in, or is it about to end?
Yeah.
But I mean that in a positive way. It's kind of very King Crimson in that regard.
Yeah, this is a very experimental batch of Todd songs. It's like cut into the earth from Potemkin City Limits, like extrapolated out a little bit across an entire record of his songs. Like No Longer Young is kind of a standout outlier for Todd's batch of songs
Totally.
here. Everything else is
Yeah.
super, super dark, very slow. Guiding Lights, God of Avarice, Fire Season, Day by Day those really connect together. Like No Longer Young is a big outlier for me as far as this record goes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm curious, I wonder if you know the answer to this. So Todd primarily plays bass. He plays bass, I think, exclusively live. But I think when he writes music, he writes on guitar.
Yeah,
Do you know, did he record the guitar parts for this, or did he teach Chris and Chris recorded them?
Todd recorded tons of guitar on the record.
Oh, okay.
I think Todd plays guitar on the record on pretty much every one of his songs in the studio as well.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, oh, it's not fair that he's talented at so much stuff.
I know. Well, the thing is, what's really interesting too is that I think my impression of it is that he got really, really good at guitar by doing a ton of bluegrass. Like he plays a lot of bluegrass guitar at home as well.
Oh, weird. Oh,
Hmm.
but that actually makes sense, especially thinking of the main riff of Guiding Lights. Like if you take off the distortion, it's kind of like that finger pick hybrid picking. Yeah, it has. Oh, weird. Okay, I'm now making that connection in my head. I'm gonna have to re-listen to the whole album and see if there's any other moments that I can detect that harken back to that.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, John, I mean, great song. Really interesting record. I can't believe it's been a year.
Yeah.
But I mean, what a good little chat. Thank you for coming on and telling us some stories about your experiences with the fires, and what that's like, and just living with that reality that this is something that could potentially be happening again in the very near future. It's got to be a little weird to think about amidst the normalcy of life, but your stories are valuable for anybody considering moving to a place where fire is kind of prevalent.
It's something to keep in mind when moving to Southern California or yeah, any other area. But I think we're learning. I think as time goes on, and unfortunately we worsen the climate, it's going to happen in more places because there were fires that affected the greater Winnipeg area not too long after. I think that was what was that mid 2025?
Yeah, well, there's also and I think so as well. I think it was also really similar time period, but I think I've got another segment for this episode in the
Oh,
works
okay,
right now about the Canadian fires as well. So my
okay.
goal with having you on is to talk kind of like about the American experience of somebody who wasn't from LA, didn't grow up with that, but then has adjusted to it. But then I'm also going to try and get some other stories as well. So you are one of a few stories I'm trying to track down as far as living with fire season goes.
All right, great. Well, I'm looking forward to listening to that. And I thank you so much for having me on. It's always a blast. And I am a diehard fan of this podcast. I listen to every episode. And I thank you for the community that you created around this show on our Discord server, everybody who contributes music and covers and guest hosts. It's so much fun. Even when sometimes life gets busy, I kind of tap out and don't get to contribute as much as I can, but I'll always come back to it. So much fun. So thank you so much, Greg.
John Danek, thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you so much to Scott Unger and John Danek for telling your stories. Steve, during those conversations, I got into the music, I got into the lyrics, I got into the powerful aspect of their own personal experiences. Um, you and I have already talked about what we're seeing outside of our own windows. You know, the lyric in the song, "The Dying Orange Sun," is what the sun looks like above my house right now. You
Yeah.
know,
I don't feel like we're going to add anything to the conversation. I don't want to take away from either Scott or John's experiences. So if you're okay with it, I would just like to leave the lyric and music kind of discussion to your conversations with them, and we can move on.
Yeah, that's fine. So the 2026 Canadian wildfire season is going hard right now, right? In July, I saw somewhere that Toronto was ranked the worst air quality major city on Earth. And it's hitting New York City. It's all the way down in New York City too. People have died. There have been evacuations. I mean, just look at the maps, folks. Like, go out there, keep an eye on this, educate yourselves, see if anybody that you know has been personally affected. If anybody out there has any experiences you want to share, you know, send us an email. Like, we're always like, you know, looking to connect with folks out there. This is a really powerful song. It's very vivid. It's very visual, and seeing parts of it occur for myself since I've been living in Buffalo have been pretty powerful. So I did find a couple of YouTube comments.
I sent just to before you get to that, I sent you a screenshot last night of like the weather app on my phone that shows 30 out of control wildfires.
Yeah,
Within that screenshot view, 30.
yeah. I'm just blowing it up here on my screen right now, and the air quality over our the entire Great Lakes region is where the vast majority of the smoke and the particulate matter has kind of built up. You know, it's pretty surreal to be caught right in that path, and it just kind of comes right this way. And you know, then I look at like the map air quality in the rest of the country, and it just gets normal down in Pennsylvania. Like the air quality is like normal, one state below me. It is really surreal.
So further to that, my going back to my fancy Dyson headphones.
Yeah.
So when you open the Dyson app on your phone, because the headphones have an air filter in them, the actual app tells you about like all the details about the air quality.
Oh, wow.
And like to where the headphones are located. So I don't know if you can read any of those numbers.
It says poor. I can see poor being the biggest piece of information there.
And then underneath it says again, I'm not anywhere qualified to tell you what these acronyms or numbers mean, but it says PM 2.5 231, and then oh god, I don't my glasses. That's not helping. And then the other one was PM 10 231. So whatever those numbers mean, it's probably not good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting inside a house right now. Kind of a little bit of a scratchy throat. It's probably my own bad for going outside this morning. But it's just crazy how the air didn't really smell bad this morning when I was outside, but then when I went outside a little bit ago, the air stunk. Like it tasted bad. Like I could taste it against my teeth, you know?
You got a HEPA in there?
I do, yeah. So we do have an air filter running. So that's all you can do at the moment, you know?
Working overtime.
So a couple people, I saw some cool comments on YouTube about fire season. One says, if you ask me, I think this is what this whole album is about. Coming to terms with knowing it's way bigger than us. And yes, it's scary, but don't lose hope. If you consider yourself an activist, do small acts of kindness, share your wealth, help people in need. Sometimes frustration comes from thinking way too big or too much about unsolvable problems. So somebody on YouTube considers a song like this to almost be like sort of the mission statement of At Peace, the album in general.
I can see
Coming to
that.
terms. Yeah, I mean it's right there in the title of the album as well, At Peace, So takeaway, it's surreal never having experienced these things until I was in my like late 30s, and then having it happen every single year, just because I moved a few states over. It really shows you how
And
locale, what
I just
people
want to
experience. Yeah,
highlight the privilege that we've both lived with our entire lives to have never experienced this until recently. We're extremely
absolutely.
privileged.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think about how many people have it so much worse. Like Scott, his house burned to the ground, and he's still a year and a half later not living in on his property that he owns in California because the rebuilding process in the with the insurance appeals and stuff takes forever.
You didn't watch any of the Primus Interstellar Drum Derby like
I did, yeah.
docuseries? Do you remember during that Larry Lalonde's house burnt down in the wildfire, and he was going like having to do these auditions every day
Yeah.
while dealing with his house being burnt down. I was just like, this is crazy that he's having to do all this and still like be camera ready and like
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah. Well, we're super lucky that you and I are not in direct path of these right now.
Yeah.
My thoughts go out to all those who are affected each and every year by the more harrowing experiences of being directly in fire's path. Thank you to Todd for writing a great tune about it. But that's all we got this week. We're going to take some time off. We both have a busy rest of the summer and fall.
Big August. We have Greg and I are doing a pre-wedding bike ride trip.
Hopefully we can Paul Klinkhammer it.
Yeah, and then we have Greg's big wedding, and then I think we'll be back after the wedding.
Yeah, sounds good. So we'll be back around, folks. If you want to reach us, propagandipod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and Steve, as always,
Stay safe out there. Go Bills.
go Bills.